Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into Coffee Break, presented by Bath Footer, Rachel V on Dmac. We've got a full show lineup for you. James Marilatte's going to join. Will Peterson's going to join. And Andrew Mason. A lot of fun stuff. Dmac is actually headed down to Avalanche practice this morning because, of course, they've got a big game. But you got down there, Dmac. I don't know how you do it, my friend. I need to give you a little bit of credit. This is going to be game number 4 for me tonight, and I am wiped after last night. But you've done this all season long, so I just need to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, there's a bizarre pace to going there in the mornings and then the game and then the night and this, that, the other thing. But it's the most exciting part of the year. And, we're awful lucky to be able to do this in the first place. So it can be tiring, but we're grateful for these moments because the teams are doing well and we have something to talk about. It's awesome.
True. No, I'm 100% with you. Edward, good morning. Paul, good morning to you as well. So, DMAC, when you go into Ball Arena here in just a little bit, we're going to let you go. But can you... Oh, well, there you go. So I guess we'll bring in James Marilatte here in just a second. Hold on. Let's see if I can get James to connect in here. It's just me today. I do not know where Jake is, so I'm hoping that he's all right. But James, you're going to have the wrong... Here it is. We'll bring in James. You're going to have the wrong name underneath you for just a quick second. Like I said,
That's okay.
I don't know where he's at. I got you.
All right, perfect. Glad I was
morning.
here, ready in the bullpen. Good morning.
Yeah. How are you this morning?
I'm great. I'm relieved. I got a little tense last night, a little nerve-wracking last night, but it turned out to be a great evening at Ball Arena. A ton of fun. Took the kids and the whole family down there. It was a blast.
Okay, so walk us through, because both James and I, or Jake and I, were up in the press box and we're like, wait, James is here. We see your tweet. And so you and the family just decided to go down. Was this the plan all along?
We made the plan, a few days ago. Yeah, but the plan all along was to go to game 2. And, driving down, we were talking about, because there's 5 of us, I don't know that we've all ever been to a sporting event together. Usually it's like you get 2 tickets, you get 4 tickets, so it's me and the boys, or I just drop a couple of them off. So for all 5 of us to go to a game was a first. It was a ton of fun. Made a night of it.
We snuck up on James and his family. You're gonna see it in the vlog. And your sons were looking at me like, who is this crazy lady with the camera sitting next to me? Like, you could just tell they were like side-eyeing me of like, what are they doing?
Yeah, no, I think they knew who you guys were, but I think they were caught off guard. We all were. We weren't ready to be on camera.
You never know what's going to happen. Dmac, you're back.
Yes. Dealing with whatever technologies we have in parking lots, but I'll hang in there the best that I can. Last night was one really, really bad quarter. Michael Malone said, listen, we played 7 great quarters and 1 bad one. And boy, oh boy, was that bad. And thank goodness for Michael Porter Jr. He saved the day. Michael Malone said, we can't win a championship without him. He is correct. And in an amazing series, he called a screen for Michael Porter Jr., who hit an and 1-3 for a 4-point play.
Okay, well, there it goes again. We have a funny picture that we're actually going to utilize when it comes to Dmac going in and out. We're going back to the older days. But James, was it a meltdown in the third quarter by the Nuggets, or was it just playoff basketball? Like, we know it's going to be intense. You're not going to get a blowout every single time. Was it a meltdown, or was it just the playoffs?
I think it was a bit of a meltdown. They took their foot off the gas, thought it was won. They had a 21-point lead at one point. I think they just thought, hey, the Timberwolves are ready to, 1, 2, 3 Cancun this thing, which they were. Yeah. And Minnesota shot like 80% in the third quarter. I mean, that was part of it too. The Timberwolves just couldn't miss, but they were getting a lot of easy buckets. And when you give a team life, hey, they're gonna rise out of the old grave as the Timberwolves did there in the third quarter. It got nerve-wracking, but I will say this, and Dmac was talking about Michael Porter Jr.'s big shot. Jamal Murray was amazing last night. Mm-hmm. When Nikola Jokic isn't the Nuggets' best player,
yep,
they're almost impossible to beat. And last night, Jamal Murray was their best player. In the fourth quarter, it was probably Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic played fine. He played great. He had a good game. He wasn't their best player, and when he's not, I don't know that there's a team in the league that can beat him. So it is really about those 2 other guys. One of them has to step up and have a big night, and if they do that, Nuggets are going to go far.
What was so interesting to me, and I know this is always a game plan for a team, of course you want somebody to foul out, but it just seemed very apparent that they were going to go after Jokic. And that was like their main goal, was to get the big guy to foul out. Like, we just saw such intense aggression, and obviously Rudy Gobert was, you know, yelling at people and yelling at the refs, and of course trying to taunt Jokic a little bit. So that was just interesting to me, that you're just trying to get the big guy out instead of just actually trying to beat him.
Yeah, it's a good strategy, though. And, in the two games, Jokic hasn't gotten a great whistle. He's had a few fouls that were ticky-tacks, especially for playoff basketball. And on the other end, they're not called. So,
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to beat Denver, if you can attack him inside, and, most teams in today's NBA, there's not a lot of true centers, a lot of big men that can play down in the low post. It's kind of positionless basketball. Minnesota has one of those old school, Dikembe Mutombo type rim protectors that you can just go to offensively down low. That's not Jokic's strength, trying to defend in the block. So it's a smart strategy. If you let him kind of, if you stand outside and let him just kind of, play the old zone, that makes his life pretty easy. So, hey, if I was Chris Finch, I'd be doing the same thing. It's a smart strategy.
No, for sure. It's just like, I hate when you just try and take him out and you don't actually try and beat him. And maybe that's just me because I was a swimmer, and so it was like I can't erase anybody from the pool. Like, I just have to physically be able to go out there and beat them. So they're obviously two very different sports. But I'm always like, why try and erase it? Just beat him. Like, if you're so upset about it, just go out there and beat him. And that's all, in my mind, that's what you should do. But I get the game plan. Don't trust me. Before everyone in the comments is like, well, Rachel, that's not how basketball works. I understand the game plan, but I also understand you're a competitor, and that mindset of like, let's just beat them, like, no matter what it takes.
Well, it's just something he better get used to, and the Nuggets better get used to, because that's how every team's going to play him in the playoffs. They're going to try and get physical with him. They're going to try to frustrate him. He got a little frustrated yesterday, and we've seen this before out of Nikola Jokic, right? Last year against the Warriors. Who was it? Was it Poole that kind of gave him the shoulder check during a timeout? And Draymond Green actually had to stop him from going over there. The year before, he got kicked out of Game 4 against Phoenix because he was so frustrated. So, look, until he shows people that he can keep his cool and you're not going to get under his skin, that's what everybody's going to do. It just is, right? It's like, why do you pick on your little brother? Because he reacts to it. If you'd stop reacting to it, you would stop doing it. And that's what's going to happen. And Nuggets are going to see that throughout this playoff run.
Real quick, we're going to go on a little side rant. How about the Warriors? Holy smokes. I know Jake and everybody was like, they're a terrible road team and everything. Oh my gosh, did I not expect the dynasty to possibly fall this year?
Yeah, me either. And Draymond not being out there for Game 3 is going to make it to where, okay, they could be in a huge hole. I still, though, if you made me pick who's going to win that series, I would pick Golden State. They only have to win one in Sacramento, and they need to hold home court. Listen, I've got them winning the title, and they could be out in the first round. So this has been stunning to me. I thought we were going to see a repeat of what we saw last year where, listen, they've been down this road before. Regular season doesn't mean much to them. It's all about getting in the tournament and flipping the switch. But, they walked into a bit of a buzzsaw in Sacramento with that team not having been in the playoffs in, 18, 19 years, and that place was jumping. If they can get back on track and even this thing up at home and have it be 2-2, they'll be fine. But, boy, not where you expected to see them, where they got to win 4 out of 5 against a very good Kings team.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked, but I'm more shocked that you picked the Warriors to win it all and not the Denver Nuggets. I know you've got some heartbreak in you when it comes to this Denver Nuggets team, James Merrill. I understand that, but still, the Warriors over the Nuggets, huh? Is it just because they've been there, done that?
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of rings. The Nuggets need to prove to me that they can do it. And I filled out my bracket before the playoffs started, obviously, and the Nuggets weren't playing very good basketball, so it was hard to get too much on their bandwagon at that point. If I had to redo it right now, well, I sure as heck ain't picking the Warriors. And I would probably have Denver going farther than I did. They have surprised me. Their ability to come out in Game 1 and play like they had, back in January was impressive. And last night, in all honesty, as much as the collapse in the third quarter is a little bit alarming, it's probably good that they had a test, right? If they just cruise to another 30-point win, That to me is a good way to start reading your own press clippings. Like it's better to have something to learn from out of the W. So in hindsight, it was a good thing, but it was a little bit shocking. All of a sudden, you look up and it's like, where did the lead go? And their ability to react to that, keep their poise, and to kind of run away with it in the fourth quarter. That was impressive. It's another lesson, another good playoff moment.
Are we giving a little bit of credit to Michael Malone and how he coached his players in order to make sure that there could be a comeback?
I mean, I guess I would put it this way. First of all, and I know Jeff Green had a good plus-minus for the game, but during the run, it was like he couldn't guard anybody, and he's just standing out on the wing while guys go backdoor, get the pass, and dunk. It's like, okay, can we get him out of the game? And listen, I will give Michael Malone credit if somebody tells me, what did he do? What did he do that got them back on the right track? Like, okay, he called the play for Michael Porter Jr. that turned into a 4-point play. I mean, Michael Malone was quick to tell us all that after the game, going a little Vic Fangio of taking credit when things go right. Okay, you called a play for the best offensive player you had on the floor at the time. Like, that's not exactly coaching genius. Who was he going to call it for? Jeff Green?
Okay.
I just don't get it.
Fair enough. We talked a little bit about it when Dmac was on with us, though. Who really saved the game? Jamal drops a 40-piece. Fantastic. You'll love to see it. He's sick of the Bubble Murray talk, which we'll get into, too. But he drops a 40-piece. But MPJ is really the one who in the fourth quarter kind of took things in and said, no, this is going to be me. I got this. And you'll love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, look, when somebody scores 40, it's hard not to give them credit for carrying the team. But when the lead went away, after that, it was MPJ that had the big moments in the fourth quarter. He was great. So the Nuggets have 3 stars. They all showed up last night and at various moments played really well. Yep. So, listen, MPJ was great. He got in early foul trouble, sat down. He sat down. I had to go out of the game before he ever took a shot. I mean, he was out of the game, so it took him a while to get his rhythm going. That was a maturity, though, on his part, because in the past, when things would go poorly early, it just would be one of those games where he just disappeared. Yeah. But he stayed with it, did some other things, contributed, and then was able to have the big fourth quarter.
Well, and Michael Malone even said in the press conference, too, he gave credit because in previous years or in previous games, he would have stopped moving, but he never stopped moving. And there were quite a few times where, Jamal would be going to the basket and you could see MPJ had moved out, so he was able to pass the ball and get the open 3. Like, those are the types of things that show maturity. We were actually all talking after the game last night while we were waiting for Jokic of just how much MPJ has actually grown as a basketball player. But I also think the pressure and the situation that they're in where everyone is expecting them to bring this first championship back to Denver is adding to that. But you have to rise to the occasion when those type of events, start to occur.
Yeah, he's turned into a much more all-around player. I mean, he had the big game against Portland, 2 years ago in the first round where he had 26 in the first quarter. He's always been a great shooter.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, we saw some rebounding at key moments last night. He played really well defensively. And, I've said this with you guys a few times throughout the year. When he goes to the basket, when he's a scorer and not a shooter, he's a great player. And that's what he was doing last night. And he's smart enough and mature enough now as a player to realize, hey, if I'm not hitting things early, go to the basket, get some easy ones, go to the foul line, kind of get back in your groove. So, yeah, you can almost literally watch him develop as a player right before our eyes, and doing it on the biggest stage here in the postseason. That's great.
Are you at all worried about going to Minnesota?
No, I'm not. I mean, I don't think they're going to sweep the Timberwolves. I think Minnesota will get a game. If they're gonna, it better be game 3, because if the Nuggets win tomorrow night, it's 1-2-3 Cancun.
Yeah.
But no, it doesn't worry me. Like, yeah, it's a decent building and they have good fans, but is it Phoenix? Is it Sacramento? Is it Golden State? Is it LA where you look around and it's like, oh my gosh, it's celebrities all over the place? I mean, you're going to Minnesota. You're going to Target Center? Is that where they play?
Yeah.
No, that's not an intimidating barn to go play basketball.
I wasn't worried until the third quarter meltdown yesterday, but clearly they can and are finding a game plan, I would say, to keep up with the Nuggets. So of course they're going to go back. They're going to say, okay, well, what worked in this quarter, and how can we adjust? So I wasn't really worried until the third quarter meltdown, and now I'm like, they could steal one. Do I still think the Nuggets are going to walk away? Do I think it would be a super close game? Yes, but I think they could walk away and still steal a game back home.
Yeah, and they found something the Timberwolves did in the second half, because I think the Nuggets had 19 fast break points in the first half and 0 in the second half. Now, part of that is it's hard to have fast break points when the other team's making 80% of their shots. You're taking the ball out of the basket. You're not going to get a fast break out of that. So that was probably the biggest key. But Chris Finch talked after the game how they were getting out of the corners. If you got two guys down in the corner on offense, they got a long way to go to get back. So that was an adjustment they made. So Denver will have to deal with that. And they'll have to find ways to execute more in the half court. Not their strong suit. That's tougher to do, obviously, on the road. So there's some things to worry about, I guess, a little bit. But do I think this thing's coming back here 2-2 for Game 5? I do not. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I'm 100% with you. But, hey, we also didn't think that the Avalanche would fall in Game 1. So crazier things.
You did. You did. You were all negative.
Well, I thought they would still win, which is the sad part about it. I just figured it was going to be a close game.
I owe you coffee, and you still need to give me that order.
I gave it to you last night on Twitter. Twitter's just a messed up place right now. It's so sad. It was the best app.
During a game, I don't even look at my mentions. They're not very nice, so I must have missed it.
Okay, I love seeing people in the comments. Jokic probably has no idea who the celebrities are. That's very true. If he goes out to LA, you don't have to worry about Jokic getting starstruck. Russell Wilson, though, was in attendance yesterday. They did put him on the big screen, but he did let people know via his Instagram story. Terrell Davis, though, he got the crowd pumped up. If I would have asked you last year at this time, if they would have showed Terrell Davis over Russell Wilson, would you have still gone with TD?
No, but I mean, TD's a Hall of Famer, so he's the guy to show. I had no problem with it. That was awesome when he came out to midcourt. If you just said, hey, Russell Wilson's going to be at the game and they're not going to put him on the screen, I'd be like, what is going on? Why? Who dropped the ball on that one? That's pretty shocking. But listen, Russ gets a lot of heat, and I wish Dmac was on here because I wanted to correct him from something he was talking about on his radio show with Derek Wolfe about how he had to have all his teammates come out and say he was a nice guy and whatever. We'll get into that later. But Monday night, so the NFL flag football thing is now Russell Wilson NFL flag. There was a coaches meeting on Monday. Mm-hmm. He pops onto the Zoom and talks to everybody for 5 to 10 minutes. Could not have been better. Yeah. Looks like he's ready to go. He was great. So I'm going to give Russell Wilson some credit when it's due.
I think Russell Wilson is a fantastic person. It sucks he had a really bad year. And, of course, when you struggle, people are definitely going to come at you. So I understand that. That's kind of what you sign up for in the business and with how much money you make. But I think at the end of the day, Russell Wilson's a very good person. And MPJ talked about him in the locker room, and said that they're friends because Russ had tweeted out that he's a game changer, which I 100% agree with. So I hate, and I would tell Dmac the exact same thing because he's very critical of Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is a fantastic dude, though. And I do think, even though despite last year, we're very lucky to have somebody who is so involved in the community to be our quarterback of the Denver Broncos right now. Now, hopefully things get back on track on the football field. But as for just an individual person, we're very lucky.
Yeah, and, KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy came to his defense because there were stories circulating that he wasn't well liked in the locker room.
Yeah.
So they had to come down and refute those rumors. It's the same reason Mike Kliss felt compelled to tweet that Russell Wilson had a birthday party and half of his teammates showed up. It's because those bogus BS stories were out there. So if the media hadn't put out the bogus BS stories about the guy, then his teammates wouldn't have had to come to his defense. But he's so damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Nobody likes him. So then if his teammates come to his defense, instead of saying, oh, hey, that's great. They stood up for their guy. They like him. It was, Russell Wilson had to ask his teammates to defend him. It's like, okay, so you just can't win. At that point, he just can't win in the eyes of some people. So it bothered me a little bit.
No, I feel that. Trust me. I totally get it because I think you have to separate the athlete from the person. Let's go on to Jamal Murray, though. Jamal is one of the most interesting individuals, I think, when it comes to the press conferences. He is, one, not afraid to tell you exactly how he feels. You can see it in some of his side eyes that he gives. He's not a huge person, likes to talk to the media, but it does answer questions when asked. But he did say, I'm sick of the Bubble Murray talk last night. He's sick of it because he's like, it's the same Jamal. Does Jamal have the right to say, I'm the same person. Like, stop talking about this past me that, I will hopefully never be, or I may never reach the ceiling, because he said this is only the beginning. He's looking ahead. Bubble Murray was just the past. We're looking forward and hopefully going to be bigger and better.
Listen, he can be upset if he wants to, but first of all, Bubble Murray is a compliment, right? Like, that was when Jamal Murray had, 3 50-point games during that playoff run? So when he gets cooking, that's what people say, because that was the last time we saw him play like that. Mm-hmm. And then the other part of it is, like, he missed 18 months. He missed 2 playoff runs. The last time he played in a playoff game was in the bubble. So, like, he played 2 playoff games now. We're supposed to just what are we going to call you? Game 1 against the Wolves, Murray? Like, that doesn't have a great ring to it. Like, it's just a funny thing to be upset about. Like, it's a compliment. And you've hardly played basketball since then, certainly not playoff basketball. So I don't get it. I don't understand why that's upsetting, but whatever. Guys use things to motivate themselves. If this is getting him motivated, great. But you know what? Here's the best way to get people to stop saying Bubble Murray. Go out and one-up it, right? And then we'll talk about Championship Murray. Nobody's going to call you Bubble Murray if you're lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy in a couple of months. So, you're going to be remembered for your best moment, and right now, his best moment was in the bubble. Like, that's just the fact.
True. I did see Edward said, he keeps it up and will transition to playoff Murray. Just win. And that's the key, is just win. Jamal, don't worry about what they're calling you. I totally understand. It'd be like if people kept calling me like Whack Rachel, and I'm like, all right, I've grown a lot since those days. Like, let's look ahead and move forward for sure. But enjoy it.
Yeah, but if that was your best moment, they're going to call you Whack Rachel.
Yeah, but at the same time, you've grown, right? Like, that's 22-year-old Rachel compared to 27-year-old Rachel.
Well, if you disappeared and didn't do a show for 3 years, and the only remembrance they have is of you doing stuff for the Whack, that's not on them. That's on you.
Fair.
Is Leonard Fournette upset that people call him Playoff Lenny?
Probably not.
It's a compliment. Like,
it is a compliment.
His team is so damn sensitive.
I was actually wondering how long it was going to take us to get to this point. It only took us 23 minutes.
I was just like, really? We're upset about this? Like, I called him Bubble Murray in a tweet last night after the first quarter, because the last time I saw him play like that was in the bubble. Like, what does he want people to call him? Like, what's the proper designation for that?
Okay, well, hopefully Bubble Murray continues and it turns into Championship Murray, like you said.
I mean, when he plays bad, we can say, hey, this looks like skipped the playoffs, Murray. Is that what he wants?
Let's hope not, because I think they really desperately need him in order to win a championship. We'll look forward to tomorrow night. Chief Merrilat, always a pleasure. I will be texting you for that coffee, because I'm desperately going to need it for sure. All right, we do have to talk about the Colorado Avalanche, though, because, of course, they've got another game on the agenda here tonight. They take on the Kraken, and nobody expected them at all to be going in and saying, hey, you know what? They're down 0-1. Will Peterson, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Rachel, I'm doing well. I'm ready for the Avalanche to join the party at Ball Arena, because the Nuggets are doing their part. Time for the Avs to do theirs tonight.
No, 100% I am with you. Last night was fun. I'm a little tired this morning. I'm not going to lie to you, Will. I'm a little tired, so I'm hoping that the Avs just get down to business and we don't even have to worry about anything. But for you, honestly, are you just expecting them to come out and be the Colorado Avalanche? I'm not expecting anything, but at the same time, I wasn't expecting anything 2 nights ago, and here we are with them down 1-0, in the playoffs. I can't talk anymore. We're just at that point. I can't talk.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they need to come out tonight and punch Seattle in the mouth, because what happened was the Ball Arena crowd was fired up. Playoff time. Here we go again.
Yep.
And Devon Tays just has an inexcusable, awful turnover, and it sort of lets the air out of that building. And then 7 minutes later, Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen say, okay, we're going to put this team on our back, score a gorgeous goal, make it 1-1. And then the second period rolls around, Josh Manson and Cale Makar have a bad change, and here we go again. Third period rolls around, Josh Manson loses a puck in the corner. Here we go again. So it's the early goals, Rachel. Those have to be from the Avs tonight, because then you can get that snowball starting to go downhill. Whereas if you're constantly fighting from behind, I think we learned Seattle's a pretty darn good team at mucking it up, ugly hockey, making it gross, forechecking, keeping the puck in the neutral zone, not letting the Avs get in deep, all of the above. And that's when Seattle has a lead, right? I'd like to see Seattle try to play from behind. I don't think that would be quite as pretty. I think if the Avs are up 3-1, Seattle is in trouble. I think when Seattle's up 3-1, like I said, they can muck it up and keep the Avs off the score sheet. So getting an early lead, that's key number one to me tonight.
Okay, which I'm totally down for. And we're going to talk about Grubauer because I think he's kind of their secret weapon, which we talked a little bit about yesterday. But we do have to give credit where we do have to give credit to the Kraken where credit is due. Try and say that. Kraken and credit in 3 different words. But they did a good job of keeping the puck out of the lane for the Avs. They just did. They did a fantastic job of it. And like you mentioned, keeping it in the neutral zone and not allowing the Avs to go deep by any means. But that's hard to do against the defending Stanley Cup champ. That's why the Avalanche were able to go from where they were in January to where they were at the end of the season, and that was first in the Central.
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of exposed the Avs. That might be a strong word, but they were a one-line team on Tuesday night, a one-line team. The first line was good. It was fine. I mean, they scored the only goal. It was a very pretty goal. I thought every time McKinnon and Rantanen were on the ice, it was like, okay, maybe they're going to get one. I know Bo Byram hit a crossbar. Evan Rodriguez had the one that hit Gruby's stick. But where was Valeri Nichushkin? Where was Arturi Lehkonen, right? These guys. Where was Devon Tays? Where was Cale Makar, quite frankly? So the Avalanche, while the Kraken deserve credit, their depth was nowhere to be found. And that's why I think it's important that they get Andrew Cogliano and Darren Helm back in the lineup this evening. Jared Bednar said yesterday that's a possibility. I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but Ben Myers doesn't do much for me. Matt Nieto doesn't do much for me. Rachel, Alex Newhook was supposed to be the 2-line center. He hasn't done anything all year. He doesn't do much for me. I would go the 11-7 that Dmac loves to talk about. Mm-hmm. I would play both Johnsons. I would give Josh Manson another chance. Obviously, Gerard, Tays, Byram. And then I would scratch Newhook and Myers, and I'd put Helm and Cogliano back in there. And here we go. We're playing with our best players, and we're playing with guys, most importantly, that won the Cup a season ago, not guys who did not.
It's interesting because it's that, back and forth of do we just go with the healthy guys? I know at this time during the playoffs, everyone's a little beat up, but do you go with the healthy guys that have been able to play? Or do you go with your veteran championship team who are a little more beat up for sure and have been on the injury report and just hope that they can come out and produce?
Yeah, I mean, they skated in regular jerseys on Monday. Yeah. And we're now at Thursday. So while I totally understand that they're beat up, I'm sure everyone's beat up, it's not like they were in red on Monday and we're asking them to play on Thursday. If you're in a regular jersey on Monday and you can't play 72 hours later, then you shouldn't have been in a regular jersey on Monday. You should have been in red. Every single one of them was in a full contact jersey. So I just think with Cogliano and Helm that if they're go, if I'm Jared Bednar, I'm begging them to go, Rachel. I'm saying, please, I need you.
We need you to get out there. How much of it is mind games, though? Because I swear sometimes we see players out there, that are in red jerseys to give the teams that, maybe we're not going to see them. But sometimes we also see them not out there in red jerseys because, hey, we might be able to see them. We need to prepare for them, even if they're not fully healthy. I'm just starting to believe that all the talk we have about injuries, especially this time of year, it's all BS anyways because we're all just playing my games when it comes to the teams.
I would agree with you with star players, right? If it was McKinnon or Rantanen or Cale Makar, you can play mind games. Fair. I don't think Darren Helm and Andrew Cogliano are big enough names that we're going to mess with the Kraken. No, I think they were healthy on Monday, And then come Tuesday, it was, well, maybe not quite there yet, but with another 48 hours, you need to be there because, we all remember Cogliano's big goals last year. It felt like he had 3 or 4 of them in the playoffs. We remember Darren Helm's big goal in Game 6 in St. Louis. They had moments for the Avs last year. So if they can play tonight and you can find a way to play Jack Johnson and Eric Johnson, I think that's getting 3 guys on the ice, and your scratches would be something like McDermott, Brad Hunt, Ben Myers, Alex Newhook, and Matt Nieto. Okay, if I'm subbing those 3 in who didn't play in Game 1, I feel like my team just got a lot better. Takes a little pressure off McKinnon, Rantanen, and the top line. That was the only line to show up.
Are you switching up that top line? Are you moving Mikko off of it with McKinnon to try and add a little bit of star power in other places?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I know we dabbled on it yesterday, but here's the thing. Mikko Rantanen's phenomenal, but Mikko Rantanen's all that much more phenomenal because he feeds off Nathan McKinnon. Nathan McKinnon is truly the only player on the Avs who can create on his own. So I would rather keep them together and let them continue to work their magic they've worked all year and just hope another line can give me a goal or 2. Because if that first line can give me 2 goals, and then I can get 1 from the second line and 1 from the third or fourth line, that gets me to 4. That should be enough to win tonight, whether it be 4-1, 4-2, or 4-3.
Talk about Grubauer, because I personally think I overlooked him. I think a lot of us overlooked him in the fact that he's played so many games at Ball Arena and that he knows this Avalanche team. I mean, how many shots has he probably taken in practice the 3 years he was with them with these top guys of Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and obviously Gabe Landeskog's not out there. But he knows this team very, very well, Will Peterson, and are we just not giving that enough credit he could go out there possibly and say, hey, I got this, guys, just have some faith in me. He was not the best goaltender for the Kraken this season. He's like, I got this. Just have some faith in me, and let's go home 2-0.
Rachel, you're drinking the Grubauer Kool-Aid. You were around in 2021. You watched the same series I did. He had 2 great games against Vegas and then fell off a cliff. So, no, I'm not going to sit here and praise Philip Grubauer after 1 game. I outlined he got lucky on the Rodriguez stick. Yeah, he did it nice to get a shoulder on the Byram shot, but he also got lucky that it caromed off the middle of the crossbar, not off the bottom of the crossbar, and into the back of the net. He gave up a lot of rebounds. I talked about that with Stokely and Zach yesterday. It felt like the puck was in front of the net all the time. That was always a big beef with Grubauer, right, when he was the Avalanche goalie, that, he could make the initial save, but he was not good at eating it up or directing it into the corner. It's like, oh, I'm going to save it, but I'm going to save it right in front of the net. It's like, well, that doesn't do us a lot of good, dude. So he played fine, especially the last 10 minutes of the second period. But, oh, my gosh, I am not giving Philip Grubauer his crown until this series is over, and that's got a long ways to go.
No, for sure, but you got to give him credit where credit is due because, oh my goodness, no one expected him to come out there and to be able to hold the Avs to 1 goal. I thought it was going to be a close game too. I know you were going hockey tacos come Tuesday night. I thought it was going to be a close game, but I did not expect him to hold it to 1 goal. I won't lie. I was thinking 3-2 was going to be the final score. No way did I think he would be like, Mikko Rantanen and Nathan McKinnon, you're only getting 1 past me tonight. I just didn't believe it.
He played well. He did, but the puck luck was on his side too. It's the time of year that we talk about puck luck, right? Puck luck is the buzziest, trendiest thing when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the hockey gods, for whatever reason, smiled down on Philip Grubauer in Game 1. I've outlined a couple times at least 2 goals that he got lucky on. I'm sure if I went back and watched the tape there, I could find 1 or 2 more. So, yeah, he played a good game. And you know what? When you play well, puck luck does tend to go your way. It's kind of like, the harder you work, the luckier you get, or whatever the old saying is. I give him all that, but we'll see tonight. And I'm not going to be around tomorrow. I'm headed out of town, but maybe I'll do an impromptu call-in from the airport when he gives up 6 tonight and go, hey, Rachel, we still crowning Grubauer?
Okay, fair enough. I'll expect that. I'll even if you just tweet me, I'll put it up for you just to give you your moment right there.
Yeah, I'll hop in the comments like everyone else. There we go.
Perfect. There we go. I love it. I see this comment from Neil. It says, Rachel, the Avs came out flat. He was not that good. How flat was it, though? Because to be honest, people are going to get mad at me when I say this, but let's remember the Nashville game, of course. 3-3, Nathan MacKinnon comes in and saves the day. Did they really come out flat, or is this just the team we've actually, like, the reality of the team we're looking at, that they're not as dominant as they were last year?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's what I wrote about at denversports.com once the game ended, was the last year's team was historically great, all-time great, 16-4 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
This year's team is very, very good. But historically great and very, very good are two totally different things, right? We were spoiled last year. That's not how Stanley Cup playoff run worked. Even the great teams usually lose 8, 9, 10 games. You can lose up to 12. If every series goes 7, you can go 16-12 and win the Stanley Cup. So I think, yeah, they did start a little slow. They weren't buzzing as much as we wanted them to. But you're right. They had to go into Nashville in Game 82 against a team that had nothing to play for, was ready to play golf, and it was 3-3 with 1:30 left in the third, and Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen had to get a 2-on-1 to win them the Central Division as MacKinnon secured his hat trick. So I'm not saying lower your expectations off the Cup, but I'm saying lower your expectations to Avs fans, not you, to Avs fans, off all-time great. Because if they win the Cup this year, and that's a massive, massive if, they're going to go like 16-10 or 16-11. They're not going to go 16-4. They are going to lose at least double, almost 3 times the games they lost last year.
Gosh, last year's Cup run was just so fun.
But it was easy, right? It was easy. It was not stressful. You know, the one time it got stressful, Rachel, the one time was the Game 5 loss to St. Louis. That was it. That was the only time we were stressed that entire run.
No, that's true. You weren't stressed at all in Tampa?
No, because even though they lost Game 3, if they had lost Game 4, I would have gotten stressed, but they got up 3-1, right? Yeah. So when they lost Game 5 here, sure, a little bit worrisome, but I love your famous term. That wasn't the round 2 boogeyman, right? That was a team that had gone like something like 8-1 on the road. We all knew they were going to go win Game 6 and close it out, and that's what they did. The moment in Game 5 just got a little big. The Cup was in the building, whatever. But that's not to say that we were not freaked out after they lost Game 5 to St. Louis. We were genuinely worried that they were going to lose in the second round for a 4th straight year. But this Cup run may have 20 stressful moments. We've already had one. Last Cup run had 1 stressful moment. They overcame it. They're going to have to overcome a lot more stressful moments this year than they did last year.
A lot of people are talking about the Boston Bruins because holy smokes were they fantastic in the regular season. And I think they're going to be the boogeyman. Of course, you got to get all the way through the West to make it to the Stanley Cup final. When you look at Boston, I was like, they could run this thing. They could be that great team, but they actually fall last night. And now there's only one team, that is 2-0 so far in the playoffs. And that's the Carolina Hurricanes, because the Boston Bruins, they go down to the Panthers last night. So I just think that the playoffs are going to get absolutely crazy this year. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and they go down to the Panthers. They were down 6-2 in like the final minute before they made it 6-3. So it's not like, they lost a tough 2-1 game in overtime. They got their butts kicked by Florida last night. That's not to say Boston won't win the series, but could the President's Trophy curse come into play? Of course. And a game like that, that's a statement game from Florida. It's not like they stole one. They were the better team, and they showed the Bruins, not only can we skate with you, we can beat you. So that series will be fun to monitor. And the other thing you mentioned, everyone is 1-1 except the Hurricanes go up 2-0. Rachel, I got a feeling that tonight every series in these 4 games goes to 1-1 as well, which would put 7 of the 8 at 1-1, right? You got to think Vegas bounces back against Winnipeg. The Avs are obviously going to bounce back against the Kraken. The Devils, are they really going to lose 2 at home to the Rangers? They could, but you think they probably get 1. And then there's one other series in the East. What's the other series I'm missing off the top of my head? Tampa-Toronto. So, I mean, Toronto's got all the expectations in the world, and they laid the world's biggest egg in Game 1. And we know about their history in the first round, but wow, if they can't even get a split at home, they are TOAST toast. So I expect all 4 series tonight to get to 1-1. That would mean 7 of the 8 are 1-1. That would mean buckle up. We're in for some long, long round 1 series.
You ready for an injury report?
Sure.
No Jack Johnson. no Josh Manson. He was on the ice earlier and then left practice, and then no Cogliano either. How's that make you feel?
What do you mean by no? Like they've been ruled out, or people just aren't seeing them?
They're just not on the ice for morning skate. I'm sure we're going to hear from Jared Bednar here in probably the next hour or so, I would assume, but they're just not out on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously on Johnson and Cogliano, it sucks, right? Because if they're not there for morning skate, it's hard to envision them playing tonight. You would think, okay, morning skate would be the test, right? And then if they pass the test, they could play tonight. We know Johnson got injured in warm-up, super weird.
Yep.
And Cogliano took that nasty spill against Winnipeg, second to last game of the regular season, which was tough to see. With Manson, that one's a little curious because if he was out there and then left,
Yep.
we may hear the infamous maintenance word, right? Or he's just, he was just getting out there for a few, and then we gave him the rest of the morning off. I don't think Manson got hurt. Rachel, I think if Manson doesn't play tonight, it's because Manson was terrible in Game 1. I think it would be performance-based. It would have to be a mystery injury disguised as he just didn't play good, so he doesn't get a jersey in Game 2.
Well, that was going to be my point of the maintenance day would surprise me unless it is just, oh, we're not having him out there because we just don't need him in the lineup. Yeah. But I would be shocked if they were like, oh, okay, you're good because of how bad he actually did play Tuesday night. Like, you would think that he needs the extra practice clearly with his teammates a little bit because it was terrible. Leading to what, 2 goals? 2 of the 3 goals that it came down to for the Kraken because of Josh Manson?
Yeah, exactly. You would think if rust was the issue, then let's work that rust off at morning skate, right? Let's get you back in the rhythm, back in the flow. This is how playoff games work. We skate in the morning, we play at night. So, yeah, for him to leave the ice, obviously, Jared Bednar's always coy, but he's particularly coy this time of year. I don't blame him. That's just the way hockey coaches are. That's the MO. That's what you're supposed to do, not tip your hand at all. So we'll see if we get an answer on that one. But, yeah, definitely bummed on Cogliano and Jack Johnson. That doesn't mean they're out. It just means my faith that they play is significantly less.
True. Are you going to hockey tacos again tonight, or how are you feeling?
We'll pump the brakes on the tacos. Maybe lesson learned a little bit, but I did just say I was going to gloat to you when Grubauer gives up 6, so I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here. But no, give me the Avs something like, I don't know. I think it's a more solid win tonight, Rachel. I think it's like a 4-1, 4-2, something like that. Like just a good grindy type win where it doesn't ever feel all that stressful, but they also don't just completely blow them out of the building.
Okay, I'm going, I think 3-2 again. I think the Avs will get, well, maybe. And now that I think about it, I'm kind of like, I think they're going to have a more dominant performance. So I want to say 3-1, but then I'm like, don't count out the Kraken. And everybody in the comments has been like, you should fear the Kraken. Okay, I get your point since the Avs are down 1-0. I still think they're going to walk away with the series. So I think the Avs will get 3 at the back of the net. How many the Kraken will get? I'm going to go in 2 or 1. I can't decide. I'll decide by game time for sure. Are you at all worried about Georgiev? Be honest.
No. I thought he was fine in game 1. The first goal was certainly not his fault. I mean, Tays had the awful turnover, and people forget Georgiev actually made the initial save to bail Tays out. He just got unlucky that the rebound went right back to the Kraken guy, and he was able to get the second one home. The second goal, I know Dmac his skate got caught on the ice. That was still an absolute laser that he got a shoulder on. It wasn't a total softie. And then the third goal, same deal. He had no chance at. So why, like, and I'm not saying you, but I've seen a lot of chatter on social media. Like, people are constantly trying to find a problem with Georgiev. He was a top 5 goalie in the NHL by most metrics in the NHL this year. He is better than Darcy Kemper, and he was not the reason they lost game 1. So let's, again, not you, but folks out there, let's chill on the Georgie slander.
No, trust me, I'm in there, and I think it's probably because of, the worry we had last year when it came to Darcy, and Georgiev's totally different. I just think he had his ups and his downs in the regular season for sure, but this Avs team is not good enough to have ups and downs when it comes to this playoff run. They need him to be solid 100% of the time.
No, it's a really interesting point by you, because we talked about it last year, how Patrick Waugh had to be fantastic in 96 and 01
Yep.
for them to win the cup. Yeah, they had a lot of firepower, but Waugh had to be on his A game. Last year, they were so good offensively that Kemper and Frankie just had to be fine, right? They didn't have to be great. Well, unfortunately, we're back to where we were 20, 25 years ago. The goalie needs to be a big part of this. I'm not saying Georgiev has to be Patrick Waugh. That would be unfair. Patrick Waugh is a legend, a Hall of Famer, one of the best, if not the best goalies in the history of the league.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that Georgiev doesn't have to be better than Kemper was. There's a middle ground between being better than Kemper and not being as good as Patrick Waugh, and that's where Georgiev needs to check in.
No, 100%. Gosh, I really want him to just be solid. But again, throughout the regular season, there were just times where I was like, okay, we're riding this roller coaster. And I don't think that Frankie can come in there and be the saving grace that he was last year. I don't want to discredit him by any means, but I think we all thought Frankie was so good, and we had that conversation of, oh, should they go with Darcy or Frankie, because of how good the offense and the defense was last year, not actually because of the goaltenders that they were.
Yeah, Frankie went 6-0, but he won games 8-6 and 6-5. So I love Frankie, and Frankie got the loudest chance at the parade, maybe of anyone. And Frankie was great. He bailed him out in the Edmonton series when Darcy's eye was still really screwed up. But, yeah, I don't think Frankie plays a second in the playoffs, Rachel, unless it's for injury. Georgiev is a significantly better goalie, and he was not the problem in Game 1, far, far from it, in my opinion.
No, I'm with you. I'm trying to bring Dmac in here because he is down there at Ball Arena, so I want to get the injury report from him. Dmac, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good, Rachel. You can hear me? Are we good?
We got you. We'll
We hear you.
long as we get in.
So, no Andrew Cogliano on the ice, no Josh Manson, no Jack Johnson. So, I wonder, not only do I think Josh Manson is still struggling from whatever injury he has, I don't know if there's enough rehab time for him to get up to, hockey shape. So it's not that he couldn't play, it's can you play at the level you need to play. Bednar said he was rusty, and he just wasn't himself. And now he was skating with the skating coach Shane Allard this morning, but he's just not in shape, guys. He only played, 27 games. He's not feeling 100%, and he's just not there. Even if he's healthy enough just to get around or put on hockey skates, he's just not physically ready to play at this level. Cogliano, of course, is concerning as well, because we know how tough he is and how he would want to go. And it does appear that Jack Johnson just simply got hurt during warmups. Eric Johnson, just moments ago, was asked about being scratched initially. He goes, "Oh, that's news to me." And that, my friends, is an official hockey lie right there. So that's the way that goes. I'm not saying that's any kind of controversy or anything like that. But, we know what the truth is because they released the lineups. So we know about it. We know how they do things with the morning skate. It's water under the bridge because I don't think Manson really is going to be I don't know if he's going to be healthy, and I just don't know if he's going to be ready to play in the playoffs in terms of what he needs to be ability-wise. So Eric Johnson is a footnote to this series of the guy who was supposed to be scratched, who will likely play every freaking game.
I asked this, Dmac. I asked this to Will of the controversy of, do you go with the veterans that have been in this situation type things where they're still not 100%, or do you go with the guys that maybe haven't been in this position and are fully healthy? Excuse me. Which lineup do you go with?
Well, now you know what, guys? Here we are with the injury issues. Now they don't have a freaking choice.
Okay.
We had all sorts of options. I'm sorry, a train's going by right now. That's annoying, but good for public transportation and good on the ecology. You're going to have Hunt, who's going to play D tonight. He'll be with Eric Johnson, and now all of a sudden you're down guys, and guys are hurt. Now you don't have all the depth that you once did. Here we go again with this injured Avalanche team. So whether guys are ready to go or not, I mean, what are we talking about here? We are like a toenail injury from seeing Curtis McDermott in the playoffs.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
How you come up with this stuff, Dmac, I will never, ever know. Is there anything else you can tell us? How Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, everybody else out there look good?
Yeah, everybody else is good to go. The issue today was about the mentality. I heard it from multiple players inside the locker room. Miko Rantanen and JT Compher. It's a psychological approach, and it's a determined group. Let me tell you that. I think you're going to see him come out much more focused, hair on fire sort of attitude. They got caught sleeping. They got caught napping against the Kraken, and I doubt you see that tonight. I'll take the Avalanche 5-2 over the Kraken. I think they're a refocused group, and I think they'll come out strong. I'll head back inside, though, because Jared Bednar is about to talk, and if there's anything to know, we'll report it at denversports.com. You can just follow me at Twitter as well. So that's the news.
There it goes. Go
I
for
was
it.
gonna say, Rachel, speaking of naps, why doesn't Dmac just bring a blow-up mattress and sleep at Ball Arena?
I don't
Because
know.
I see when I wake up this morning, I see his tweet from 1:30 in the morning, oh, I'll be back here in 9 hours for morning skate. Dmac's the hardest working man in the biz, right?
Yeah.
It's a badge of honor, but it's also Dmac, we need to get you a little cot or something, my dude, and you can just sneak up there toward the Cronky suite. Hopefully no one notices. Pass out for a few hours, and you'll be good to go. Because I know you're going down every night, Rachel, and you are working your butt off. But he's going back every morning and every night. It's just insane. He lives there.
He's crazy for sure. Will Peterson, as always, love having you on. Thank you so much. Have fun on your trip this weekend. I'm quite jealous of the warm weather you're going to get because it's supposed to be a little chilly here in the Mile High City.
Thank you. Yes, I will obviously be watching from afar, and I hope when I return on Monday that the Nuggets have broomed the Wolves and the Avalanche have taken a 2-1 lead over the Kraken.
Let's go. All right, Will Peterson, we will bring in Andrew Mason, though, because, of course, we got to talk a little bit about the Denver Broncos because they're having their pre-draft availability today. We know nothing, essentially, about this, Mace, of who's going to be talking. You may know, I guess, but I haven't heard who's going to be talking and exactly what positions maybe they're going to be eyeing when it comes to the draft.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have an indication of who they're talking to, what players that they've visited with over the last few weeks, because you're allowed to have 30 in-person visits, a few more virtual visits, and of course conversations at the Combine, but it's kind of been all over the place. I think one interesting thing, though, is that among the visits that they've had are with a couple of pass catchers who don't appear likely to fall to the third round, talking about tight end Luke Musgrave from Oregon State and wide receiver Rashee Rice from out of SMU. And so when you see that, you think, okay, A, trading up may still be in play. B, again, if the right offer comes in for Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, especially Jeudy if you want to actually have some high-level draft capital, because Cortland Sutton not going to get you very much. We saw the Allen Robinson deal earlier this week that Pittsburgh made. It involved a couple of seventh-round picks. Pardon me. So basically, if you want anything of value, it's going to be Jeudy, but that may not happen until draft night. So we kind of have some breadcrumbs, but the thing is, if you're not picking till pick 67, Rachel, you're better off not having one or two positions you're trying to target. You're better off kind of having a wide net and putting yourself in position to take the best player regardless of position.
How confident are you, maybe not confident at all, that they are going to trade up?
I'm not that confident in that. I mean, now what's interesting is George Paton, and I presume we'll hear from George Paton today because it's a pre-draft press conference. I'd gotten an indication a few weeks ago that it was going to be George Paton talking at this pre-draft press conference over Zoom. That George Paton did say it's more likely they go down than up because of their lack of draft capital. They only have 5 picks right now. Of course, the other thing is that Sean Payton has a history of moving up in the draft. Now, usually he's got a more robust complement of picks with which to work, and of course he was doing that with Mickey Loomis in New Orleans. And so I think we're about to learn something about Sean Payton's draft philosophy, whether everything New Orleans did was what Sean Payton wanted, or whether Sean preferred a different approach. Because even after Sean Payton left the Saints last year, they still made an audacious trade up and traded this year's first-round pick to get an extra pick last year, and thus until the trade for Sean Payton's rights, the Saints didn't have a first-round pick. That was a Mickey Loomis trade because Sean Payton was out of the building. So perhaps we'll learn a little something different about what Sean Payton espouses because he has a different general manager he's working with in George Payton.
Are they looking for, when it comes to a tight end, somebody like a Gronk or a Travis Kelce? Because I'm just so surprised with how many different holes they have. Everyone is still kind of locking in on a tight end.
Well, everybody's looking for Gronk or Travis Kelce.
True.
I mean, even if you've got a really good player, maybe the 49ers aren't looking because they've got George Kittle.
Yeah.
But pretty much everybody's looking for that guy. And look, the reason why they're unicorns and why they're so treasured is because not only are they splendid pass catchers and they can body up defenders, they can reach over them, they have enough quickness and route running ability to generate separation on the inside, even going to the outside as well. But also they're plus players in the blocking game, so you can put them in line next to the tackle and they can be effective. And unfortunately, right now, if you look at the Broncos tight ends, you've got Albert Okwuegbunam, who is clearly a guy you want in space, not blocking. Greg Dulcich, they'd like him to develop as a blocker, but he probably has to add some weight. He may not be able to add much good functional weight on that frame that he has. And so he may not be a tight end who can go line up next to the tackle and be in that inline position. And then you have Manhurts, Chris Manhurts, who the Broncos signed last month, and he's more of a guy who operates next to the tackle, but he's not much of a receiving threat and isn't going to do much in space. So what you have are your top three tight ends. None of them are all-round tight ends where you can put them out there, they can go in space, they can go in line. And I think that's one reason why the Broncos chatted with Luke Musgrave in particular, is because he does project as a tight end who can be out there for every down, in every role. Time will see what kind of dynamism he displays as a pass catcher, but that's part of it, is looking at these tight ends and realizing there isn't that all-round, every down player out there who can do everything asked. Who, if you say, okay, you got to step in pass pro, and maybe you're not going to chip the eggs, you're going to go one-on-one against him, that he can do a good job. I don't know if that guy exists in the Broncos locker room right now who can do that and also do a good job in the receiving game, and that's one of the reasons why you see the Broncos looking at it. And the other thing is, Rachel, it's a very good tight end class. And that means you're going to see some quality dip into round 3. Last year's tight end class was terrible. This year's the exact opposite. Tight end classes tend to go all over the place. Some years they're great, some years they're awful. So if you're going to pick the best player available, to me it behooves you to take a tight end, because you might be able to get a guy at 67 who in other years might be an early to mid-second round pick.
Okay, it's interesting. Do you have Bryce Young going number 1 overall?
I do.
Okay.
I've heard no indication of otherwise. I mean, there was some scuttlebutt a few weeks ago about Frank Reich, the Panthers coach, maybe wanting a taller quarterback, and of course that would be C.J. Stroud rather than Bryce Young. But we're kind of reading tea leaves, picking up breadcrumbs, and we see that Bryce Young is canceling visits in the wake of his visit with the Panthers. Every sign is he's going to Carolina, and I think this is actually a really good fit for the Panthers because they've got a lot of they've got a lot of intriguing young players. They resisted the temptation to trade Brian Burns, their outstanding edge rusher, last offseason. Bryce Young coming in from Alabama, if you can get him up to speed enough with some of the quality they have on that team, and they've got, and even after trades they've made, they've still got some quality pass catchers. Carolina, in a very weak division, could be fighting for the division crown this year, and I think Bryce Young offers them a quicker path to that than CJ Stroud does.
Well, we know their defense is going to get better with Ever over there now, too. Mace, one of the reasons I love having you on, though, is because you're not just a football guy. I know you're our senior Broncos writer, but you cover the Avalanche, you cover the Rockies, and you have a piece that is going off on social media right now about the Colorado Rockies because essentially it's becoming pathetic. The attendance levels that we're seeing at Coors Field, despite the party rooftop, it's just reaching horrible, horrible numbers.
Yeah, yesterday's crowd, and it was, okay, the weather wasn't great, 55 degrees at first pitch, cloudy, windy. But yesterday's attendance was the lowest for a non-pandemic capacity-affected Rockies home game since before the rooftop went in. You've got to go back 10 years and I believe 10 years and a day since the last time the Rockies announced an attendance of that few people at Coors Field. But that's one game, and so I want to kind of take a deeper look into it and see, okay, where do they stand after 10 games? Because everyone's going to say, oh, well, the crowds are going to pick up in the summertime. And yes, everybody's crowds pick up as the weather warms up around Major League Baseball, except maybe in places like LA, San Diego, where it's already nice. But in places where they have cold winters, the audience always picks up as the weather gets warmer, as kids get out from school. So, yeah, more people are going to go to the Rockies games. But if you look at the first 10 games, comparing basically the same time frame year after year, the Rockies are looking at their worst average attendance in 16 years through those first 10 games. And they're down over 6,000 people a game. And so that's not weather. That's not Avs and Nuggets playing, because you know what? The Avs and Nuggets were in the playoffs last year, right? That is people, I think, finally voting with their wallets and saying they've had enough of what's gone on at 20th and Blake. And it's dangerous, because what's setting in is apathy, right? Because when people aren't buying the tickets, they're tuning out. I saw a bunch of people on social media saying that, oh, I turned the game on a little late on Wednesday, and they're already behind, 5-0 in the first inning. It was like the Homer Simpson meme gif where he goes back into the bushes, right? Or Grandpa Simpson walking in, taking off the hat, doing the loop, and walking back out the door. And that's how. And so even people who are diehards are tuning out quickly. And I do. This is. I mean, some of it is just taking the pulse of fans, and also kind of digging in a little bit. But it does seem different. Like the Rockies this year really are going to take a hit, that people have finally kind of hit their breaking point with this franchise. And the thing is, it might get worse on the field before it gets better, but I think a lot of fans would be okay if on field it got worse, if it was building to something. That's the thing. Like, if you tore it down to the studs like the Houston Astros did a decade ago, okay, you might lose 110 games for 3 straight years, but everybody there knew they've got a direction, they got these prospects coming up. The problem with the Rockies is there is no direction. Like, I think fans would have been happier last year if they had sold at the deadline, if they traded Daniel Bard, who had pretty good value at the deadline last year because of the kind of season he was having, and every team in contention is looking for bullpen help. That's just basically that's a norm of Major League Baseball. So I think he had value, and they didn't deal him. It's like people are like, "What are you guys doing here? You have no direction. Everyone's moving forward, or they're moving to rebuild, and you guys are just kind of standing there."
And it's the same thing with the extension of Bud Black. Everyone's like, okay, well, clearly we're not trying to do anything. We're just trying to keep our friends, continuing to give them jobs. What's more likely to happen? And I know it's going to sound silly when you ask, that Dick Monfort's kindly going to say, all right, we're selling this, or Bud Black is going to just get fired and have to move on.
Oh, Bud Black gets fired. Now, I don't think it'll happen soon.
Yeah.
I think they're going to play out this season with Bud Black. And I could be wrong, but that's, just I peeled back the onion a little bit. yesterday to do a little digging. I think Bud Black's going to make it through the year, unless it's like calamitous, unless they have like if this losing streak gets to like 15, 16, 17 games, if it gets ridiculous, then I think you'll see a move made immediately. If it's just garden variety bad and they're skulking toward 100 losses, then I don't think you'll see a move until the offseason. But the thing is, what indication do we have from this franchise that they're going to make the hard decisions that need to be made and that they're going to look outside their insular bubble? I think it was Dmac who pointed out that since Dick and Charlie Monfort became the primary owners of the Rockies, and of course it's much more Dick Monfort, since they took the reins from Jerry McMorris, that Dick Monfort has not had an outside general manager because he inherited Dan O'Dowd, and then Jeff Bridich was an internal candidate, and then Bill Schmidt was an internal candidate. They seem to be allergic to outside ways of thinking, and because of that, they're stuck in this rut. They think, okay, it's like they think everything is going to be okay, and clearly it's not. I mean, shoot, to me, if they really did a long, hard self-examination, you'd think they would say, we haven't even won a division, and they're not going to win it this year. So this is going to be 31 seasons without winning a division title after this year.
Yep.
That's impossible. That's almost impossible to do. Although it's interesting that another team that has gone 30 seasons now without a division title is the Miami Marlins, but they have 2 World Series. They have 2 playoff appearances. They have 2 appearances. And they have 2 World Series wins. Talk about the ultimate outliers. But at some point, when you're a franchise that has pretty good fan support, unlike the Marlins, they may fall back in attendance this year, as I wrote at denversports.com, but they've been top 10 in recent years in attendance. I believe they were 15th going into yesterday in average attendance. So that's the kind of thing that maybe deceives them into thinking things are okay, that, okay, people are still coming out. We haven't lost the fan base, but if we see more crowds like this, and I don't think we're going to see like Tampa Bay Rays, Oakland A's crowds because of the season ticket base, and announced attendance reflects tickets distributed and sold rather than people who are actual butts in the seats. Yeah. But if they look up at the end of the day this year and they see their lowest attendance in a generation, and they keep seeing sites like yesterday. I mean, I know they announced 18,000 plus. I think we can all agree there were about 5,000 to 7,000 people actually in the building. If they keep looking up and seeing that on a regular basis, maybe that will actually foster the change this team needs. But here's the other thing. They're going to play the Dodgers. They're going to play the Cubs. They're going to play the Braves. They're going to play the Yankees. And you know what? Their fans are going to pack the place like always.
Yeah, people will still come for those teams. And I asked that question, too, about, selling the team versus Bud Black, because maybe the Monforts are just saying, okay, this has gotten to the point where it's just too over our head. I know they're still making a profit, but maybe it's just gotten to the point where we're like, you know what? I just don't even want to deal with it anymore. Like, it's just become this point and this, like, nagging, side project. You understand what I'm saying when I say that we're just done with it. And it's just time to wipe our hands clean of it and say, you know what, no longer. It's an interesting question, of course. We'll keep you guys up to date with anything that comes down to the Avalanche, the Nuggets, the Broncos, the Rockies, denversports.com. Mace, huge thank you for hopping on with me today. I know the Broncos are going to get set to roll here any minute now. Huge shout out to James Marilat, Will Peterson, to Dmac from hopping in with us. And we will be back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. with another episode of Coffee Break. We got one more night, everybody, at Ball Arena. Wish me luck and send me a lot of coffee. And if you're down there, let me know, and we'll see you guys all tomorrow morning. Bye.